Hi, this is Patrick with Trusty Huckster Mercantile. I put together a video showcasing a little tour of my home decorated for Christmas. And as I was editing the video together, I realized that if you had not seen the Show Off Your Bunker tour that I did with George for the Antique Nomad, you may not have any concept of how these little pieces that I videotaped, how they went together. So I decided to make this little intro and then do a little video just kind of showcasing the floor plan, for lack of a better word, of how everything lays out. And then I've got individual clips which kind of highlight and explain some of the items you see in the individual collections. So I hope you enjoy the tour, and thanks for checking out Trusty Huckster Mercantile.
Well, if you got a dollar, well, just lousy down. You know that I got rhythm that could suit your budget fine.
So starting the tour at the front door, I actually am starting with one of the admittedly few items I have in my home decorating for Christmas that is actually vintage, and that is the basket cover, which is the platform for the snowman snowflake. I found this at the Rustic Fox, where I've done some live sales. I have a vintage booth, and they had it decorated with the greenery. I took the greenery out, found the snowflake, which is not vintage, definitely a vintage-inspired, primitive looking snowflake. Put that in the middle because with the door closed, the front of my house is also that pale off-white. The door being white, I liked the brown basket setting off the snowflakes. I just like the way it looked, and then I just went ahead and used the greenery to cover the hook, the wreath hanger that is on the door. So when you come to my home, you say, oh, look, something's vintage, but oh, look, something's not vintage. And then you come through the rest of my home. So as you enter the home, you come through, you come into my home, and you have my Christmas decor. So first, we got the little half wall where Huck is located. Huck has been decorated. You've got the Christmas tree itself. There's a little table that I tucked into the corner, which became a space that became available because I moved some furniture, because I wanted to put the Christmas tree in the front window. Since it's unlikely I'm gonna have any guests this year, I wanted to have a way to showcase my Christmas tree so people driving by might be able to see it. So 9-foot tree basically that's at the front of my house. My swung glass collection is still in the window ahead of it. Over in the corner, I used to have a bookcase, or I had the bookcase was decorated with vintage telephones. Replaced that with my Santa collection. Then I've got what used to hold my floral, my glass flower frogs. Those have been put away, and I put up a Santa shelf, which I go into more detail. I realized the video that I made of the feather tree was difficult to see because I actually filmed it with the regular tree behind it, so it was difficult to see. So on my table, I have a feather tree. I highlight this Louisville stoneware bowl. I'll show that in a little video. My curio cabinet, which decorated with absolutely non-traditional or non-vintage items there. And then we move into my dining room, get some light in here. I have simple decoration on the table. And then what most people have become familiar with, my piano. So I've got the Christmas tree candle backdrop, and then I introduced greenery into my 19th century decorated stoneware collection. So I've been doing this type of decorating ever since I built up this collection. I just like the way it looks, super traditional. It's all fake greenery, fake pomegranates and pears. And I got that wooden Amish style, shaker style storage box. Got that from George, the Antique Nomad. Picked that up. Don't think that is the infamous pewter plate. The infamous pewter plate is actually over here on the shelf. Sorry, Nate. But that is, that's probably what I'm most proud of for my Christmas decorations. And then when you get into the kitchen, don't really do much. I've just got a table runner, which matches the table runner underneath the Louisville stoneware. And my tea canister collection still there. So really just kind of decorate this downstairs area. This is what it looks like. Get the overview of the room. I don't think I actually highlighted the nativity set in my video earlier, so I'll just kind of show there. I actually made that. So technically that is going to be vintage because I probably made that in the late 70s, early 80s. If you've watched my videos before, you know my mother had a ceramic studio in the basement, and I made many ceramic pieces. This is one of the few that I remember having, or still have. And little, you know, again, non-vintage decoration. Oh, and I think I highlighted in the video the secretary, so I'll show that in a little bit too. So had to decorate the Huckster Hound. So he doesn't nod as well, so he doesn't always agree with me as much anymore. But had that wreath, used to go on the door, and decided to put it around the head of the Huckster Hound. And, you know, it looks nice, basically from a distance, makes walking by the door a little bit more precarious as it tries to poke you. But I also then had this other wreath, which is actually the pair match set to one in the hallway, and it had this little wreath stand, and so it made sense to put that on a little half wall there. Also picked up, which was kind of fun, at an estate sale, I found this gold and red table, little book table. And what it's showing, it's got a place for the books. It doesn't have a big place for the books, but the books are a big deal in our household. As the Huckster Helper was growing up, we had an Advent calendar, and there was one book for every day of Advent. So each book had a little slip of paper. We put it in the Advent calendar, open it up, and that would be our nighttime reading, would be one of the Christmas books. So those are all the books that we had as the Huckster Helper was growing up. Probably, this is definitely a modern, I can't remember, probably Target or Michael's or something. I probably should get a replacement card holder. And the cards are actually from last year. I did actually get a couple of Christmas cards this year, but I don't think I put them in there yet. The bowl usually sits on the coffee table. Didn't have the heart to put it away, so nestled it in old crystal. That was a wedding gift, the crystal bowl in the bottom that only comes out at Christmas. And this year really didn't have a place to put it, but I didn't have the heart to not put it out. So it became kind of a weird underplate for my Gartner Blade glass bowl that normally is on my coffee table. So that's the little table next to the tree. So this year we have only one Christmas tree in the house. Well, one big tree. You'll see a small tabletop tree as well. But this is the 9-foot tree that is in the living room. Tree skirt my ex-wife made when that was the family tree. It's a nice big wide tree skirt, so it came with the tree because you need a pretty big tree skirt to go with a pretty big tree. The tree topper, ironically enough, is the first time this has ever been on this tree, because at the house we had a 9-foot tree with 9-foot ceilings. So we couldn't put a tree topper on there. So this tree never had a tree topper. And this is, although this tree has been set up before, I never put the tree topper on there. So the angel is actually probably about as old as the Huckster Helper, if not older. So it's going on 20 to 25 years old. I think it was one of the first Christmas ornaments we got as a married couple. But what this tree has become, you can see I'd like to put a lot of ornaments on the tree. It is now an amalgamation of several different theme trees that used to, before I had to divide up the ornaments between me and the ex-wife, we used to have enough ornaments to decorate multiple trees and each tree in theme so that some ornaments never came out. I used to travel internationally for my work, and so a lot of these ornaments come from my travels. Others just came from childhood. The Huckster Helper did not necessarily have the most traditional religious upbringing, so Veggie Tales is really our go-to for the Bible. Several ornaments, that stuffed beef eater came from a trip to London. It's actually a stuffed doll, and we just find a place to nestle him on the tree. A lot of Wittenberg ornaments. That's where I graduated for college, Springfield, Ohio. So I've got a lot of those. Some Hallmark ornaments that, you know, just kind of picked up along the years for gifts or whatever. Train, that's a Hallmark ornament. I used to sell to CIA. So that is actually, believe it or not, the CIA has a gift shop. So that is an actual CIA ornament. Some glass. The little gnome actually was picked up in Austria. So this is the first time on the tree because I was there for Christmas and New Year last year. So bought the ornament, but didn't put it on the tree. So this is the first time that's actually gone up on the tree. We have a collection of White House ornaments. I bought the very first White House Historical Association ornament in 1999, the year that the Huckster Helper was born. And that started a tradition, and little did we know it would build into a love of history. One of the pottery bell ornaments, that was from a trip to the Southwest. The bookmark, I think that was a trip to South Korea. I think the egg was Russian. I did a lot of trips to Southeast Asia. That I think was Mexico. So this was another one from Southeast Asia. That was Singapore. I remember that. It becomes harder and harder. I need to kind of like refresh myself every time. That was from New Orleans, Mardi Gras. Fox Theater, Atlanta. Oh man, what's the platypus? It's a Disney show. Perry, I just liked that as Amelia was younger. I just thought Perry was hilarious. Young's Dairy, that was near Springfield. That was near Springfield, Ohio, where I went to college. We used to go to get ice cream there all the time. Some of these, Baby's First Christmas, that's a Lennox ornament. I think the Huckster Helper's grandmother bought that. We had a whole series of Lennox ornaments. That is from San Luis Potosí, Mexico. I used to go there for work. That, don't remember. So again, probably Southeast Asia. The Woody with the surfboard was from a sales meeting, I think in Florida. This is from Japan, even kept the price tag on, showing it's 400 yen. Total souvenir piece. A lot of them were not even designed to be ornaments. They just became ornaments because I needed something. This was from a trip to, might have been Bratislava, Slovakia, I think. Another from Southeast Asia, necklace that turned into a ornament. Sometimes it's keychains that gets turned into ornaments. That was from the Naval Museum in Pensacola. I used to sell to the military, went to a lot of things for that. More Southeast Asia. Let's see, it's right. I saw it earlier and I wanted to highlight it. Now, of course, I'm trying to figure out where it was. The oldest ornament on the tree is from my childhood. Because ironically enough, I sell vintage, but I really don't have a lot of vintage Christmas on my tree. Not by design, just never really built a vintage collection of Christmas ornaments. And I really only have been selling vintage for a year. So some of my collections have been built in there, but there is the oldest ornament on the tree that I remember growing up. It kind of looks like stained glass, but it's plastic. It's a little piece of plastic, so it's probably from the 70s. Just one of those items that I had on the tree growing up. Didn't get a lot of ornaments from my parents when they retired and moved out west. Not 100% sure why, really more of a functional that I didn't have a place to store a bunch of ornaments. So I only got a few of them. Again, more international, more Hallmark. So that was my one and only dog. Got that as a wedding present from my wife, now ex-wife. She bought me a Basset Hound. I bought her a Schnauzer. And so those were our wedding presents to each other. That was Spencer. And it's the only dog I've ever had because when we had to put Spencer down, couldn't function for days. So that's just one of those things. I'm like, love dogs from a distance. Don't own any myself anymore. So again, mixed, but disappointingly, not a lot of vintage. This is just, again, not anything on purpose. I love vintage Christmas, just never decorated with it before. but that is the Huckster and Huckster Helper Christmas tree for 2020. Okay, this is really the only place I'll have some legit vintage, and this has all been built up over the last year or so. I've always had a Santa collection, so I take that back. I've always had a Santa collection, but they were always modern. So the Santa with his pack was one that I've had for some time. That was always on display. The little resin one, the resin, a lot of these resin pieces, I've had those for a while, but I've started augmenting them with some legit vintage pieces. I think I picked that up in a live sale. The little Santa holding the partridge in the pear tree. Can't remember whose live sale that was from. The Archie Christmas digest that came from Michelle Comfy Cozy Living. That came from one of her live sales. The tin, I think, might have even come from a live sale with the yellow coat. I'd never seen a Santa that has a yellow coat like that. I just got the wooden Santa, and of course now I can't think of where I picked him up at, but I thought he was pretty cool. Wasn't 100% sure if he was true vintage or if he had just been made in such a way that he looked vintage, but I thought he was pretty cool, like a carved Santa head. And I am currently videotaping this while standing on my chair. So if I fall and die, you'll all have a way to remember me. The smoker is, actually I think that's probably, it's a new to my collection. I don't think that's particularly vintage though. Some tins, the cloth teak pieces. That was a handmade ornament with the Santa. I always thought he was kind of cool. The tray is vintage. So again, it's not a lot of vintage, but I am actively trying to build that collection out a little more with some older pieces. So I can still have a Santa collection, but making it, maybe a little bit more appropriate to some of the vintage Christmas that I sell personally. So when I said I had only one Christmas tree this year, I lied, because this is the other one. It is actually new to me. It's a reproduction feather tree, but it was one that I really liked because it had really tight fake branches on it. Sometimes they're really poofy. Unfortunately, I wanted a feather tree because I specifically wanted something that would fit on my coffee table, and this does do the job. It's got a nice little gold base to it. Tablecloth, or the table cover, not really a tree skirt, table cover Christmas was made by my ex-wife from the quilt shop that we used to own. But what I discovered is when I went to then decorate it, I didn't really have any ornaments that were appropriately sized. Again, not having a lot of vintage Christmas ornaments, I had sold the Christmas ornaments that I had. So these were ornaments. I used to have these actually sitting in a bowl that was decorated with other Christmas decorations, and I realized, you know what, they were actually pretty decent size. So these little, I don't think they're actually legit vintage. I think they're made to look vintage because I found them, they were not boxed, but they came in sets of 4. And they're very well and very uniformly made and glued. So I do think they were produced and probably are retro look, not necessarily vintage, but I don't actually know. But was able to decorate that. And I'm not sure, I kind of like that. I'm not sure if I'll necessarily put a lot more on there or not. But for this year, that's the one we've got. And I did pick that Christmas tree topper. Picked that up at Christmas time last year. I think I picked it up at the end of Christmas. So I don't think that ever went on the tree either, but I got that from a Goodwill. The price tag was still on the box when I put it on this tree. I think it was $1.99. And I just thought that was pretty cool looking. So one of the rare legit vintage pieces that I've got on display. So the last corner, sorry, we're like looking straight into the lights, but is an edited version of the Santa collection that I kind of took away the telephones that used to be on this bookcase, and I'm highlighting the Santas instead. Tucked in the back, I took away a modern vase that used to be there and put that, it's the Pointers painting that is currently listed on Etsy for sale on behalf of the Just One More Dachshund Rescue organization. Moonstruck Vintage CLE donated that, and it did not sell during the fundraiser, and it is a Chelsea House piece, and it's absolutely beautiful. And so I didn't want to put it into storage. I didn't want to risk it being damaged or anything in storage while it was selling, so I'm using it to decorate. So it just kind of tucked there, leaned against the back. Picked up the pottery camel, weighs about 10 pounds. Just really like the looks of him. Not sure if he's a permanent addition to my home, but found a new spot for him up here, and I kind of liked him up there. But a couple of Santas. Again, a newer one that came from Europe last year, the little wavy Santa I've had for a while. All of these they're getting to the point where they are older, you know, like 10, 15, 20 years old, maybe 25 years old, just because I've had them for a while. He's actually pretty old. I made him once upon a time when I was a kid. My mom had a ceramic studio, and well, looks like I was a bad person. I did not actually sign my name on it, but I do remember making it. So he's got some age. He's probably from the 70s or 80s. But this is probably less than half of my Santas are displayed here. You got the Coca-Cola Santa stuff. You know, some of these things came from Michael's, Joanne Fabrics. Again, these were never really, you know, purchased for their value or rarity. It was to decorate, and it was a lot of these came as gifts from the Huckster helper to me when she was a kid. She would just go find one that she really liked, and that became a new Santa for me. So I probably have another of this tall size. I think I have another 6 or 8 of them still in a box that never came out. But I took them into that bookcase. Used to have my antique phones in there. So I've got the Santas, and then the little table. Took away the glassware that used to be on this. Put a yo-yo tree, again, made from the quilt shop. There's a lot of remnants from the quilt shop. The father and child fox, had that for the Huckster helper and for me. And then another one of the tall Santas there on the bottom. So that is the last corner of the living room decorated for Christmas. I do actually have one other vintage piece that I picked up and had initially intended to sell, but I kind of like it, so I've kept it for a while. It is a Louisville Pottery 12 Days of Christmas punch bowl. I do not have the cups that go with it, but it's decorated all the way around with the song of the 12 Days of Christmas, with then the design. So you've got the 12 drummers drumming, the 11 pipers piping, 10 lords of leaping. So you got the picture. So you've got the images going all the way around. So it's kind of cool. And I just put some gold Christmas balls in there. And then I had these little red pom-poms from something. It was like a craft project or something. Just had a bag of them. And I tossed them in. And suddenly I thought they looked like the coronavirus. So, you know, sign of the times. I thought it was actually perfect. So these just going to sit here on my side table. And another little table cover that this was made, again, by my ex-wife at the time we owned the quilt shop. So we have a lot of non-vintage textiles, but it was one of my favorite fabrics. See, and I can't. Had to use 2 hands to move that bowl. It's pretty heavy. But the way this is, for people that like to sew, this is done in triangles, templates, then sewn together. So you can see the seam, and it just makes a cool pattern in the middle. I've got a table runner that matches it that's got a little greenery piece on it as well. So I just liked that, you know, much more contemporary made, much more contemporary in design. But I just thought it was like a very cool design, and the colors definitely match some of my furniture. You see it's right next to my chair, and there is one of the chairs. So you've got a good color scheme that matches it. And so that is how my room is finished out for Christmas. So doing a little hallway here, I've got a wreath that's on the door to the powder room on the first level. And then the only other thing in this little hallway actually is the oldest Christmas decoration I've got in the house right now, because that is my baby stocking. So that would be let's see, I was born in October, so possibly from 1970, maybe 71, probably had it for a couple of years, but that is what I'm told was my baby stocking. I have no memories of it. I did not even know it existed until much later in life when I found it in a bag. So we'd had it for a while, but so I have that, and then put that on the secretary along with a much more modern snowman decor. It's one of those like kind of a crafted item. You can see he's old enough that he's starting to fall apart, but not because of pure age, just because he probably wasn't made all that well to begin with. Probably got him at a craft fair or something at the Huckster Helpers School. So, but always liked him. He's got a nice size, hangs nicely, and ever since we got him, he's been on this secretary. I just think he looks good. So this little hallway, that's all we got.
So, that's the Huckster Home Holiday Tour. Hope you enjoyed it. I'm starting to see other holiday tours like this up on YouTube for some of my favorite resellers and vintage personalities, and really enjoy watching them, and totally puts into a new perspective how little vintage I have, considering how much I've always liked it and how much I sell of it. So, things might be changing over the time, but this is what I've got. I definitely wanted to, kind of build the cozy nest because it's going to be indoors for most of the holidays. And even though I'm probably going to be enjoying them mostly alone, wanted to share it with you. So thanks for joining the tour, and thanks for putting your trust in Trusty Huckster. Bye-bye.
Well, show me a sign if you're wishing me to stay. Otherwise, I say goodbye, finish out the day. And that sunrise in the morning and you got nothing to say. Oh, that's when I'll be headed on my way. Hey, I hope I can abide by your area codes, and I'm bound to wander down that endless road. Give me a good deal on something I can use. Make me an offer that I just can't refuse. When that sunrise in the morning and there's nothing there to do, will probably be the last time I see you. Woo-hoo! I hope I can abide by your area code, and I'm bound to wander down that endless road. Well, if I had a dime for every time I felt this way, I'd have $1 million and a couple bucks in change. Sure was nice to know you. Oh, maybe I'll catch you on the New York train. Or maybe I'll never see your face again.